So I'm reading this book called Salt, A World History by Mark Kurlansky. And basically, it's just about all the different uses of salt throughout history and even to today, but I haven't gotten to that point. I've read the first chapter, and I'm going to talk about it. So this book starts out with the author explaining his personal experience with salt. And I guess this is what got him into it. I'm not entirely sure. He doesn't go into that, but it must be. So this lucky fuck was in Cardona, Spain. Must be nice. And he bought a $15 magnesium-based salt rock. Pretty much all salt, just magnesium-based. And I presume he was interested in the history of this rock in that area because the people there had garnered a bunch of wealth over time. Blah, blah, blah. Salt was really important back then. Anyways, he brought this rock home, kept it in a windowsill, got rained on, presumably because his window was open, which is a freak move. And then crystals started to appear. So then he patted the rock dry, and then the next day it was sitting in in a puddle of brine that leached out of the rock. And then the sun hit that puddle of clear water, and then after a few hours, square white crystals began to appear in the puddle. Pretty cool. This guy was pretty interested in this rock, and he talks about it a bit more. He baked the rock in a copper pan, in a copper pan, and then I guess, polished it. And I guess the whole gist of this is that rocks are important and they're fucking magical. So after this talk about the magnesium rock, he goes in to talk about mummies. He even talks about the Greeks and everyone thinking salt is super important. They use it in their rituals and their even sacrifices. Salt is important. Christianity, Judaism, and Islam both have important uses of salt in their religions. The Jewish people have salt and bread on Fridays to represent the covenant of salt by the God of Israel, which I guess is God. I don't know why they have to specify Israel. So the author, Mark, goes on to explain other cultures' uses of salt. Talks about how farmers in the Middle Ages used to use salt to preserve their grain crop, salt brine. And even the Japanese use salt, and they used it in a pretty cool way. They used it in their theater to detest evil spirits, so they would sprinkle it on the stage before each performance to protect from these evil spirits. And in Haiti, the only way to break the spell of being a zombie is to bring its life back with salt. I guess that works. And then in parts of Africa, it's believed evil spirits are disguised as women who shed their skin at night and travel in the dark as balls of fire. And you can imagine what can destroy fire? Salt. They're all so smart. It's awesome. I mean, it probably works. I don't know. So he talks about how Jews and Muslims have something in common, or I guess he doesn't say that in particular, but I think he's saying that. They rub their newborn infants with salt when they're born. I'm assuming in the eyes, but it protects them from evil. He didn't specify where they were rubbed with salt, but you can only assume their eyes because they believe the salt protects from the evil eye. I don't know if that's some sort of Sharingan or what, but yeah, I don't think that happened to me when I was a kid. I just got my dick clipped through circumcision, so yeah, that doesn't involve salt, and that's still kind of important. So the next part of the first chapter, he goes on to talk about the history of people eating the salt for sustenance. He starts out, talking about how people eat 2/3 of a pound to more than 16 pounds of salt a year. I'm sure the 16 pounds are Americans. We definitely eat more salt than we need, according to this dude. Which I guess I get. If you're doing physical labor and you're sweating, though, you lose more salt. So if we were working in the coal mines, then yeah, we need salt. And then he talks about the history. I don't know who the Maasai are, but there were nomadic cattle herders in East Africa. Um, they bled the livestock and drank the blood for their salt. Like, they were down bad. I wouldn't be down for that. Another strat these dudes used was following the animals themselves, because the animals were pretty smart. They had good noses and they knew where the salt was, so they'd follow them to their favorite salt licks, and then I'm assuming bend down and lick with the animals. Pretty cool. If that's the that seems better than drinking blood. I don't know, but I guess the blood must have tasted okay because people eat blood in cultures too. So Mark goes on to explain that, believe it or not, you die without salt. So for all those dummies out there who thought you'd live without salt, well, there you go. This author just told you, you'll fucking die. Then he followed it up with an interesting paragraph about how reindeer used to be attracted to humans for salt. So, like the other way around with the salt licks the humans followed the animals for, these reindeer would come to these human encampments and just lick the ground, their little salt piss crystals, I'm assuming. He didn't go in that much detail about it. So he starts setting up the next chapter, which looks like it's talking about how salt was used in governments in history and how it was a protected resource. Because salt's very ubiquitous today; it's everywhere. But that wasn't the case until modern geology revealed these salt deposits. So it was hoarded by the wealthy. They would keep it in their basements, and they would tax the fuck out of it in all these different countries, and it was often used as money, believe it or not. So, in summary of this chapter, he talks about his personal attraction to salt and humans in history's general attraction to salt and why it was important to them in the development of their countries and their rituals and traditions. A lot of different stuff was covered in this chapter. But I'm going to read a quote from the end of the chapter, which I thought was pretty important. Quote, in every age, people are certain that only the things they have deemed valuable have true value. And yeah, that goes to show you, like, those people that use salt as money, it couldn't be fathomed today, but holy shit, if you had to eat unseasoned chicken forever, like, I would probably value salt a lot more. So I'm looking forward to reading the next chapter about, how governments handled it. It looks like they're going to talk about Japan and China and all that fun stuff. Apparently, salt was pretty important to them. Anyways, yeah, that's it.